Good morning. We're on Briery Vale Road in the heart of Ashbrooke, Sunderland. That building I've just started the video at is Briery Road Villas, built 1879. There's lots of these villas across Sunderland. They were often given that name because their properties were a bit more distinguished than those others around them, and also giving it a Latin name sounds a bit romantic. There's a few of them spread out across the old bits of Sunderland. Now, that's one of my favourite buildings. That's on the corner of Crossvale Road in here, and that's an old shop. It was a shop. Earliest I remember it was a shop. I think it was 1890 when I had a look into its history. And that's Crossvale Road. It's a street with no houses. It's literally a thoroughfare onto Tunstall Lane. Lots of the street names around here all have Vale or Brook in them. Like Briery Vale here, Brook Crossvale, Tunstall Vale, Brookfield, Brookvale. I think there's, was it Meadowvale, something like that. And that's a clue to some of the walkways that used to be around here. Because Vale is like another word for sort of area next to a valley, I think. I'm looking up towards Islea Terrace, south. There used to be a small stream which used to come down from the Cresswell Terrace area. It used to head down around this area, and at the same time the old Hendon Burn used to flow up sort of, I think it was the back of Ennerdale, back of Tunstall Vale, and they met up before heading across Ashbrooke's sports ground. Well, in those days it was just a field. That's Ennerdale, and that's a bit of a mixed street. That you've got tourist houses on either side at the bottom, then you've got the typical Sunderland bungalow. Ashbrooke started to develop around the 1870s, but a lot of the time streets weren't built in one go. They might build 5, then another 5, and so on. So you get like a bit of a patchwork. Like there's so many different styles of houses. Like that tourist one's down there, little villa. Then you've got these tourist houses, which are slightly different to those ones. That's Ennerdale. We're going to cross over to Tunstallville. And you can see, I think that's, is it look at the size of those houses there. They're 1, 2, 3, 4. If you include the attic and the cellars, they're about 5 or 6 stories, those ones at the top. I think that's Grange Avenue. I always think of this as sort of Sunderland's Jesmond, though when it was built it would have been classed as Bishop Wearmouth, not Sunderland. And that's Tunstall Vale. I'll show you the gap where the Hendon Burn and this other stream, where once they'd met, used to flow through. The destination of this video is we're going to try and get to Backhouse Park. As you can see there's a gap. I think there's a sewer goes underneath it now, but that gap was left there because the Hendon Burn used to flow through. They filled this side with it. Tell which way we'll go. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll go down here. That road's got a bit more modern houses. I can't remember whether that bit was blown up during the World War II by German bombs, or there was a gas explosion. Hopefully it's not too noisy. Tunstall Road's always seems to be busy. And I say Tunstall Road, obviously back in the 1800s when Ashbrooke was on the rise, it was Tunstall Lane. It was a lane that went out into the countryside, because most of this was just countryside. There was wells, cottages, farm buildings. That's the back of Ashbrooke sports ground there. I think there used to be turnstiles to get in here. The gates are actually open, so there it is. Those grand houses you might be able to see on the other side, that's West Lawn. Very fine houses. This development is Willow Green. I believe Ashbrooke sold the land, and this is where the tennis courts were. We're just going to go on to Tunstall Road, and we're coming up to the Homelands area of Tunstall Lane. There's the Homelands Park estate across the road. It's a lovely estate. It's a private park, like it's got a private development, should we say, from I think it was 1890s or so. It's got tennis court, private grounds. But there's Homelands. As you can see, there isn't much of a hump now, but this used to be known as like the Homelands Hump, the hill. It was quite an impediment to transport. You had to try and get a horse and cart up here, because if you look over here, it's a lovely building. There, you'll see the doorway. It's about 3 or 4 foot above the ground level. In 1892, they finally finished taking about 3 to 4 feet of the hump off. So that's why there's the difference in height. The guy who owned the property also owned the land that this Homelands Park was built on. If you look up there, it's a lovely street, and in between the two sides of the north and south section there is, as I said, a park for the residents. I think there's one tennis court. Across there is Pear Tree Cottage. It's been drastically altered. It's not the original cottage. I think there's about been 2 on. There's been at least 1 before this, back in the 1800s. Because this whole area stretching from Pear Tree Mews over to St Aidan's in the early 1800s was a market garden owned by Mr Gibson. What he did was he grew fruit and vegetables on this land for sale in Bishop Weymouth and Sunderland. After it stopped being a market garden, it was turned into a meadow. And in May 1907, a gentleman who lived in one of these properties, I think it's Bellevue Crescent, wrote an article for the Sunderland Daily Echo and Shipping Gazette about a Sunday morning. And what he said, he described his Sunday waking up. And what he saw when he looked out from here, I think it was number 7 further along. I thought it might have been 12, because around this area. He looked across, because this is a little bit higher than the meadow over there. And these were his words. He called his story Dandelions. I look out at the field before me. It is carpeted yellow with dandelions. Nowhere, I should say, in the north of England could there be more dandelions brought together than I see in this field. The field is a picture worth coming up Tunstall Road to see. Waving above the golden flower or weed, I'm not really sure which, are apple and pear trees covered with gorge and blossom. The blackbird is singing on the pear tree. Nearer Tunstall I doubt not, the lark is singing. I do not got to hear it. It would cease the moment I came in sight. He was a Scottish man who had an interest in local history, Mr. Heslop. It's a lot noisier now than the Sunday morning he described. In his article, he describes how I think the milk boy had delivered, and he looked out, and that's where St. Aidan's is. And then, after it was a meadow, there was also lots of pear trees in the meadow, around on the edges of it and so on. So the owner used to get local children to come and help pick the pear trees, and also he used to give some of them while they were gathering all the grass from the meadow. And then Mr. Hiram, who owned the Briery, which is now that's like the sixth form St. Aidan's, he turned the area, which is St. Aidan's Pear Tree Mews, into a garden for his property. Said he even had a miniature railway there, St. Aidan's. It's all going to be knocked down soon if the planning goes through, which I think it's been granted, and it's going to be redeveloped into a brand new modern school. Where we are now is at the end of, at the bottom of Strawberry Bank. There's some great descriptions in old newspapers and from local historians back in the 1800s describing Strawberry Bank. There was a cottage on it, there was a farm, and people would come out for a walk up to the Tunstall Hills and get strawberries and drink beer from the I think it was either the farm or the cottage used to sell them. But I think there was also a public house on here, because that road there is a relatively modern road. It used to be just like a path, not a path, really, like an old lane coming down from where the Barns is. Even I think the late 1890s, early 1900s, pretty much Bellevue Crescent was the end of here. This was all open countryside with the odd property. Or Queen Alexandra, or is it Andrea? It's one of those words I can never quite remember which one it is. It's always an interesting building, that. St. Timothy Lutheran Church. Should be a little bit quiet when we go down this willow bank. As I mentioned before, the Hendon Burn goes through St. Aidan's. I think it's covered. There is a little bit of, just beside the bowling green, which is open, but it's behind a fence. So this is Willow Bank. Some lovely houses just on the right up the top of it. The Hendon Burn is actually open down in there. You can't see it because it's private property. But that's a grand house up in there. You drive past it on Queen Alexandra Road. think I've forgotten the name of these few properties. There is a name on the wall around the corner. That's this one, Willowbank Cottage. You can sort of see it. It is like a little valley going through, but the hen and burn is in the bottom of these gardens. Before it goes round to Backhouse Park, you can get to it. There's like a car park for like it's either a care home or an over 55 development. You can see a little bit of it. You wouldn't think you're about 1.5 miles from the centre of Sunderland here. Look at that. Willowbrook Villa. Never noticed that before, and I walk past it all the time. I live near here, and well, I used to have a fox that used to come to visit. Quite a bit of wildlife. There's a squirrel going into somebody's garden. See that? That's the road through. Oh, it's just Corby. Is it Corby Hall? I've remembered the name of the Tunstall View. Before all the houses were built in front of it, it would have had a good view of the Tunstall Hills. And there's an old bit of history. I'd love to be able to see what that says. And this is the end of the walk. Backhouse Park. I'll leave you an image of Tunstall View and Bridge House. So thank you very much for watching. That was just a short walk through Ashbrooke. Thanks for watching.